Please give a big hand to our speaker, Toastmaster Donna Mitchell.
Dear fellow Toastmasters and honoured guests, ever since I was very little, I've been a really big fan of this TV show called Star Trek. Aside from the technology, like transporting people from one place to another in little tiny pieces, I was entranced with the thought that there might be other beings in the universe, life forms that thought, behaved, and looked very differently to us. From the blue-skinned Andorians to the pointy-eared Vulcans, I loved the aliens of Star Trek because I so desperately wanted to believe that in the vastness of space, we are not alone. Actually, looking for life on other planets is a very real objective of the American National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which is also known as NASA. They've lined up 3 projects in the next 5 to 10 years with the aim of extracting and analysing data from planets outside of our solar system. Thousands of these extrasolar planets, or exoplanets as they're known, have already been discovered by the Kepler and the Hubble space telescopes, of which only 13 are thought capable of hosting life. Now, what this means to a scientist is that the planet in question orbits a star which is very much like our sun, and it can also sustain liquid water. Water being the best indicator that we have at this point in time of the existence of life. We're so keen on finding alien life that we even sent a message to a nearby star system in October last year. But to find out if we ever get a response, we'd have to wait 25 years. But the point of all this isn't just looking for little green or grey or purple men or women or things, to be politically correct. It is to find also a planet that we can colonise in the event that the Earth becomes uninhabitable. So when's that likely to happen then? Well, theoretical physicist Professor Stephen Hawking thinks that we've got less than 100 years before we need to find a new home. I actually think that's a little bit extreme, but what we do know is that the Earth will expand and eventually swallow the Earth in about 7.6 billion years. But research done on our closest planetary neighbour, Venus, indicates that we might have less than a third of that time before we need to leave our home planet. Venus is actually thought to be very much like Earth a couple of billion years ago. It had shallow, liquid water oceans, habitable surface, but because it was closer to the sun, it received more sunlight, therefore more heat. Over time, the oceans evaporated, with no water on the planet's surface and hydrogen escaping into space. This led to the accumulation of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which in turn gave rise to something called the runaway greenhouse effect. Today, temperatures on the surface of Venus are hot enough to melt lead. The air pressure is 90 times that at sea level on Earth. It's like being 1 kilometre underwater. And the air is so thick with carbon dioxide and sulfuric acid that trying to move is a bit like swimming. So scientists now estimate that we have about 1 billion years before Earth goes the same way as Venus. Plenty of time for us to find a new planet to make our home on and build a fleet of spaceships to take us there, right? I'm not so sure. We haven't yet broken the speed of light barrier in space travel. In fact, NASA's next objective, a manned mission to Mars, is going to use a more conventional craft, a heavy-duty cargo ship, which will carry enough fuel, food and water for the 3-year round trip. This spaceship called Orion, which is going to be built for NASA by Lockheed Martin, is scheduled for launch in the next 20 years, during which time we'll be doing tests to make sure that people can survive in deep space and on the surface of Mars. But if we are to go beyond the boundaries of our solar system, there needs to be a significant leap in technology, one which we can't achieve without help from artificial intelligence or from civilizations with a superior intellect. Aliens. I don't believe it's beyond the realms of possibility that alien civilizations exist. And maybe that's just because I love Star Trek and I want to believe. But I'm not alone. Physicist Enrico Fermi posited that because space is so big, that it's likely life evolved elsewhere. And, they probably developed interstellar flight and visited Earth. But the lack of convincing evidence led him to say, where is everybody? Some people argue that aliens have visited Earth in secret and chose not to reveal themselves, simply because the human race was not ready. Well, fellow Toastmasters and honoured guests, if that's true, we may just receive a response to the message we sent last year. Trouble is, though, we'll have to wait 25 years to hear it. Thank you very much.